Hey, how's it going? 11 o'clock. Nate Mumford, Director of Sales Engineering, as always, still quarantining here at my home in Danbury, Connecticut. It is still snowing. Yes, I know every time I do the teaser video and everything else, it's still snowing here in Connecticut. What you can do, it's the Northeast. But I'm really excited that you're here with us to hang out for another installment of RCS Live. Today, we're going to talk about GSelector and better rotations. Specifically, we're going to talk about today identifying transitions so that in GSelector you understand what you want GSelector to do or not do. It's a it sounds simple, but it's it can get you very, very far utilizing GSelector. Of course, as always, good morning, V. We have our comment section open, so if you want to check us out there, you can do that. We also have open comments. Beta users, don't forget GSelector 490. That's the Flex Clocks version. It's so cool. You can essentially schedule clocks per the minute or the entire day. So essentially a 1-minute clock to a 24-hour clock. Think of pre-morning shows. Think of essentially sporting events. Think of specialty shows. If you have a 4-hour show on Saturday night, you can have one clock that is 4 hours long. Again, up to 24 hours. The only difference there is you can't cross over the days because, again, of the exact time markers, it's a new day, if you know what I mean. So that's in GSelector 490. Looking for beta users for that. It's such a cool version. I also got to see the first time GSelector 5.0, which is, it's going to be great. It's going to be completely, I say revamped, but that's not what the case is. A nice update, if you will, a fresh coat of paint with some really, really cool features and higher performance. That's coming down the pipeline as well. So, of course, when we get closer, I will totally show you some of the new features over in GSelector 5.0. FTS, Field Technician Services, our installs are going on as normal. Don't forget, by the way, about Zeta 2. Zeta 5.20.1. I'm getting all my versions and numbers in my head. Zeta 5.20.1 beta users. That's coming out at the end of the month as well. So you want to be a beta user, dark mode, all that great stuff. As you know, we've already covered those features in a previous version of RCS Live. You can always go to rcsworks.com/RCS-live, and we'll go ahead and show you all those past videos as well. And finally, a friendly reminder, backups. You're going to hear me say this a couple times. We had a couple users who essentially kind of did some changes to their configuration, forgot to check the backups. Uh-oh, we got a problem here, right? So just make sure, this is your friendly neighborhood Nate telling you that do not forget to check your backups, right? Where is my backup path? Well, it's pretty simple. Just go over here to Tools and go to Configuration. And you can see exactly where your backup path is right there. That's your backup path, right? Got earlier versions of GSelector. It's the same thing. Tools, configuration. You'll see that backup path right there. We had a couple users who kind of added external hard drives, never tested it. Hard drive got unplugged. You can see what I mean? So every week, I'm going to go ahead and tell you as a reminder, don't forget to check your backups or data exchanges. That's part of your contract. File, data exchange, send, email it to yourself with your RCS credentials. I used to do it every Friday at 3 p.m., so I always had a weekly backup. Current data, that's going to be your entire database. I recommend doing that because RCS support can always grab something from current data, right? Stations, not so much. Current data is everything. There's your friendly reminder, and don't forget you do and are part of our RCS data exchange recovery, which essentially means that we have a cloud server that we take your most recent data exchange and back it up for you in the cloud. So in case of emergencies, we can forward it back to you and you have a copy of your database. So there's your friendly reminder. Don't forget to take a backup. Did you take a backup yesterday? Are you confident? Are you sure? Take another one. Take a data exchange. That's your friendly neighborhood thing. Jamie, thank you for checking. Thanks for checking in here. Afternoon team, CHR prep service. Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Hey, hello from the UK. How's my hair look? Everything look good? I got a new haircut. So let's dive right into it today. Let's talk about GSelector and talk about better rotations, shall we? So I'm a big believer in this. And I don't know if you heard me say this a couple times, but if you talk to me outside these RCS lives, you've definitely heard me say this. Um, Isolating and identifying your transitions. What does that mean exactly, right? What I'm referring to is I jump to the editor right here. I have a blank day. I just want to show you kind of two examples that are back to back, right? And you might notice my colors are all over here, and that's because they're all customized. I'm looking here at this Coldplay song right here, right? And what I want to do is I want you to start identifying transitions, right? Start identifying things that you care about, right? And I'm going to pick on Jamie here. What does Jamie and his afternoon team, what are you looking to do, right? I don't care what you do. I'm not Jamie. I'm not in your station in the UK. For me, I had, for example, a classic hit station, which I really want to promote upbeat, fun at work, right? I didn't want to have any too slow tempos next to each other or down moods, stuff like that, right? And so what I really want to do is have upbeat, elements. I've had some users who talk about they kind of operate on positions, right? So if I have a 5-song music suite, I want to make sure that I at least have some type of a core song, a core attribute, a core artist in that 5-song music sweep. That's in there as well. So again, I don't care what this is. I'm not the one driving the car. You're driving the car. As Drew and I used to say back in the day, if you're going on the Autobahn, you got to go 150. GSelector can do that. If you're in New York City, you can't make left-hand turns. You got to go 25 miles per hour. We can do that too, right? It's about you and how you interpret the software for your music philosophy. Right, Kai? That's exactly what I mean. So again, the idea here is to identify the transitions. I'm going to hit K on here for my consideration window. And the idea is that I just want to kind of look at, what am I scheduling here, right? And you can see that if I want to have more attributes that I care about, you should definitely go in here and add some of these attributes in here, like tempo or mood or whatever it may be, right? Customize this window. Make this exactly where you want it to be. I have some users who go based on runtime. Absolutely, you should do that too. Yeah, control. It's all about control. So then, of course, it just goes on to the whole idea of what are we looking to achieve here? If the mood is normal, do you want to have a second normal? I have here kind of a normal, better, and best. That's kind of the three I had here of a previous exercise with another client of ours. So what are you looking to achieve, right? If you have something like, I'll just pick Lifehouse and the Raindrops here. And I'm purposely working my way backwards, right? That's what I'm doing here. I'm working my way backwards to identify where I am, right? So if this is essentially my log, right? I've scheduled it in GSelector. Look at these two songs back to back. What don't you like about them? But don't forget, GSelector also has the ability of what do you like about these two songs, right? Remember, GSelector has goals and rule-based scheduling, and they're intertwined. So you can do both. I want you to do this. I want you to do that, but don't do this and don't do that, right? So GSelector is a piece of software. It has no idea what you had for breakfast, nor does it care what you had for breakfast. But what it does care about is what you care about and tell it to do. So start asking yourself these questions, right? You look at a transition, you get a call from your GM, whatever it may be. Oh, I didn't like that transition. Why? Okay. Now this is key. Now I'm going to go through a couple scenarios here with you, kind of just examples, if you will. I don't like those two songs together. Why? The tempo was two slow songs back to back. Okay. Check your tempo. Ooh, maybe there's an attribute missing. Maybe you don't have tempos for every song. There could be a song that went rogue, right? Maybe you're on vacation and an intern put in a song and forgot to put tempo, right? That not coded section is very, very important. That comes into play in GSelector. Maybe it's you know what? At 9 a.m., you had a great music sweep today. Today, the 9 a.m. hour sounded great. Go back to GSelector and review that. Why was that a great hour, right? Oh, well, I had, it was a energy 3 to a 4 to a 2 to a 3 to a 5. I never had two of the same energies back to back. Well, then you need to identify that. You need to tell GSelector, this is what I want, right? So my homework assignment for you for this RCS Live is definitely get into the habit of start to identify things you like and don't like about transitions, because that's going to help you identify it, right? And again, it could be whatever attribute you wanted to do. So working our way backwards, right? Understanding what's going on between these two songs, right? On occasion, we have users who are missing attributes. And don't forget, there's many different ways in the software you can do the same exact task. So what I try to do is first isolate it and keep it simple, right? So if you had these two songs here, look at the goal and the failure details down below. Look at the scores. See what it's doing, right? Look at, like you can see here, I flagged the total time because it's over 60 minutes. Look at certain things that you want to tell yourself, hey, heads up, this is a problem, right? Go into your highlighting, if you will. Tools, global settings, all right? And then from there, there's going to be appearances and then assignments for your user, right? You can see there's a highlight, a giant red highlight. And that, of course, is going to go based on your highlighting, which I'll show you in 1 second. But show certain things like threshold or wherever you want those to be. Again, going back to the highlight, that's here, right? What are you highlighting? So for me, it's a lowest threshold, right? If the score has a 0, I want you to tell me the score has a 0. So for example, I'll take Lifehouse. I'm just going to do Control-C, Control-V to copy 2 Lifehouses back to back. This should give me a score of a 0. Yep, it does, because I have a vocalist min-sep on. And you can see, boom, bright red. Hey, Nate, you got a problem here. Look at this. Look at the failure details. 0, 0, over here. Issues. We got issues with these two songs, right? The idea here is you want to identify those transitions. That's the idea there. And I'm just, by the way, if you have any questions here, feel free to comment. I got my phone going on here too. So any questions, let me know. But again, use these tools, use these colors, the display, the customization, use these to identify your transitions so you're working smarter, not harder, right? That's the idea. I can double click on Lifehouse, right? Oh, there was an issue with the tempo on Lifehouse. Okay, double click on Lifehouse. Remember, GSelector is linear, left to right. So I can go here and say, oh, do I have a tempo? Do I have a sound code? What's going on here, right? What is happening to this element? If things aren't playing, we get this all the time. I have a category that's unscheduled. I have a song that's not spinning in that category. What I recommend doing is jumping back to your editor, again, linear, left to right. And what you want to do here is essentially go to the insert music position. Go to title, artist, and album. Type in the exact song right there, okay? And then you can see the score of that song and what's happening. Use the failure details down below to identify it. If you see something like banned, right? Banned, 0. It means that somewhere in your database, you are telling GSelector this song cannot play, right? And that happens all the time. But mostly we inherit these databases. It's radio. There's turnover. We get all that. You inherit a database. I did it myself. I actually blew out my version 12 database, rebuilt it by myself, like a decade ago, the way I wanted it to be. Not saying you have to do that. I'm saying you're identifying these transitions, right? So where is it banned? Double click on Lifehouse, right? We had a score of a 0 there. Why'd I have a score of 0? Well, obviously you and I saw it said vocalist, but I can go to the adjustments here, right? Library, song, adjustments, day part. And you can see all of the ways this song is not allowed to play. You can see I was doing overnights in that one example. So you can see there's a min-sep for my category O, and there's also artist and vocalist with a min-sep of 30 minutes, right? So that violated it. There you go. That's how you know that song didn't play right there. I can also go here to my goals tab and my my adjustments, balance and adjustments. Goals, balance, adjustments, same exact window, but now we're talking about the enterprise, or I should say, we're talking about the station, right? Where's the station? You can see I got a couple of weird, quirky ones here. Like I have Ellie Goulding has got a shift of 1 for my twofers. Maroon 5 has got a shift of -1 during my day part AM drive. Don't care about twofers? Fine, just close it, just like this. Oh, I do care about it? Expand it, just like this, right? You can see exactly what's going on here. And you can see some quirkiness if you have anything in there. Again, when I say quirkiness, I'm referring to somebody did something to the database. They told GSelector, do this right here. And you're inheriting something or didn't catch it. That's how you're identifying it, right? So again, the biggest thing I can tell you, the best piece of advice I can tell you, identify your transitions of what you want and what you don't want to happen. And then that can lead us over here to the goals and priorities and definition tab. Let's now talk about some basic priorities and how this window works, right? And again, questions, let me know. I'm here to help out. So I have a couple, I always kind of called the old version 12. If you came in version 12, remember that whole thing. If you added a new category in version 12, you had to copy all of those rules. We had all those policies. It can get a little tedious. So we got rid of that in GSelector and really streamlined it. If you still want that control, we can do it. It's very, very easy. But you can see here, I have a couple priority lists on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, on my unbreakable and breakable goals and rules. Visually speaking, looking at this window, the way that I'm viewing the goals, priorities, and definition here is in the left-hand side, I'm identifying each priority list. You can see I'm clicking around. And then once I have that defined priority list, I have to assign it to a category. You might see this window, by the way. It might be blank for you, and that's because you're using the default song priority list. When you first open up GSelector, there's no reason to go and say, here's all your categories. They're all using the defined default playlist. There's no reason, or priority list. There's no reason for that. So we just kind of hide it, right? But once you start to isolate different categories, that's when you'll see this window right here, right? So the idea is you define a priority list with some unbreakable and breakable goals and rules. You then assign it to certain day parts. And you can see here, it looks very similar to other day parts, other assignments, right? There's the drop down at the very, very top. And then from there, you can see what the priority list is. I have my breakdown of day part. I have my breakdown of song categories. Make an important note here, by the way. Theme song, twofers, right here. See those two? You can have control of those if you wanted to. I can't enforce that enough, right? The biggest thing is if you're a twofer, classic rock, twofer Tuesdays, all of that stuff, hey, guess what? If you use your default song priority list, let's go back here for a second. I know I'm jumping around here. Hopefully you're following along. I'm going to double click on the rule minimum separation, or I can go right here to the rotation rules window, right? We'll come back to this in just a couple seconds. But if I have, a default vocalist minimum separation of 45 minutes, and I have this, right, as a default song priority list, and I go to my assignments, and if I have twofers as my default song priority list, if I'm playing Bon Jovi and I got a twofer and I'm playing Bon Jovi, you're going to get an unscheduled position. Want to know why? Because you told that twofer I have a 45-minute vocalist min-sep. It's doing exactly what you want it to do, right? So off the bat, just as an example there, isolate those twofers and have a different one, right? A different type of priority list for those twofers because it's not going to schedule by default, right? One of the things I'll talk about in a second is Airplay Starvation. I like Airplay Starvation. It's kind of the quick cheating way of just saying take those spins in the category. If you're supposed to get 10 spins and you're getting more of like a 5 and a 15, crunch those together to kind of more of an 8 and a 12, right? It's Airplay Starvation. We'll cover in just a second. And what I do is I don't want every category to have that. I just don't. So what I do here is I go to the copy priority lists. I call this Airplay Starvation. And then what I do there is, and I'll just go ahead and add this to show you here. Go to add Airplay Starvation and save. And you'll see here, I now have Airplay Starvation, and I have a second one with no Airplay Starvation. Then I'll go to my assignments and say, okay, let's say the O category is my gold category, right? What I want to do here is I want to say, all right, for the Airplay Starvation one, for all of my day parts, just the O will get that section, right? Something like that. So that way I'm isolating all of those. Bartek, I will make a note of your the lower screen resolution. Yeah, I'll see if I can expand that for you. Definitely do that. And you can see here that once I have those isolated priority lists, I have more control over what I'm doing in this priority list. So does that make all sense to you guys? So essentially, again, goals, priorities, definition, airplay starvation, a different one, multiple attributes. You can see I have different ones. I can assign them to different categories, however you want to combine it. But again, just a little plus here. Make a note of the priority list up top, right? There's all my priority lists. And then I can essentially do by day part and song category group. This also means, by the way, if you have some type of overnight rule. I used to have a splits, right, where I was at work during the day, so a hot AC at work during the day, top 40 skewing younger at night, right? So I'm okay with a couple quicker turnarounds during the nights and the overnights. You might want to have a different priority list for those two, right? Very simply put, if I go to definition, I can have a default song priority list and then some type of, second one. I'll rename this for this purpose and just call this overnight, if you will, right? And at overnight, again, I can double click on this minimum separation. It will bring me right to the hour rotation rules window. And obviously during overnights, I might want to have something different, right? So what you're seeing here, by the way, in case this looks a little bit different to you, what I did is I combined my AM drive, midday, PM drive, and night. So that essentially if I say, very simply put, I want a vocalist minimum separation, and I want every rule that I have in my database has to be the same for AM drive, midday, PM drive, and night. I went ahead and combined those day parts. I didn't make them one day part. I just merely said to GSelector, group them together as one day part so that when I make a change to one, I don't have to do it 4 or 5 times, right? We have some users that are syndicated satellite that want to have essentially, time for them is irrelevant. They don't really have a time. Yeah, they can make everything default 24/7. But you can see here, I want to have all of my rules for AM drive, midday, PM drive, and night to be essentially treated as one rule set while identifying individual day parts, right? Day part rotation, that's where that comes into play while maintaining other rules. Whereas the overnight, we don't care about overnights, right? Let's be honest. It's overnight. So there you go. Feel free to schedule as is. Just don't do anything crazy, and we're good to go there, right? So that's what I did in this context. If you're curious about that, you can go to setup. I'm not going to save my changes right now. We're going to go to setup setup day parts, and you can see there's a group number here. See that group number? That's what I did. Just double click on it. It's the group. It doesn't have to be, it can be alphanumeric, your choice. I just picked one to keep it simple. And the idea there is if you have somebody else that's not assigned, click the drop down, do one, and there you go. It's going to be assigned to all of these. And yes, I hit cancel there. Don't worry about that, right? So a lot of good stuff over there. Get your questions in here. Let's take a quick look here. Thomas, I see you. So Thomas was saying, I was wondering if there was a way to schedule some links in a clock, not by category, but by conditional. So, for example, if the song scheduled is an 80s song, a special link referring to an 80s song should appear. If it's 90s, I'm assuming a 90s link will appear. Something similar with fly-ins, but clock structure. Great question, Thomas. We can elaborate more offline. The biggest thing you're talking about there is linker, related links, and then the clock tab, okay? Fly-in links are in addition to the clock schedule. So if I see a relationship, I'm going to put a link in addition. I'm going to fly it in addition to the clock. Whereas if you do the clock one, this is going to be that leading or trailing link. Same relationship here. We have a fallback group that's going to be default. So in Thomas's example, he wants, if there's an 80s song, he wants an 80s sweeper. What if I can't play an 80s sweeper, Thomas? Well, in that case, I use something generic like either fillers or a quickie or something like that. That's what that fallback category group is. And then what you do is in the clock structure itself, I'm going to go and use a leading or a trailing link. And don't overthink it. It's just that, leading or trailing. You'll note here, by the way, I have specific links in my clock structure. What I'm talking about is there is just a leading link And you can see that drop down. That's that little kind of example. I had a Sunday category special, was just lying around that I had. But that's what you do there, Thomas, is the leading link would be 80s. You would have a fallback category of something generic. And then you have, of course, your song category group 80s. Hope that makes sense for you, Thomas. Neil, thanks for checking in as well. I appreciate it, guys. Derek, thank you for checking in as well. Absolutely. So hope that all makes sense on that little tangent there. But again, we like to answer questions here in the RCS Lives. So we're going to jump back to goals, priorities, and again, this window over here. I'm a big believer, by the way, rotation rules window. I love this window. Little pro tip, double click on the header. That will maximize it. You can also minimize it. I have mine big anyway, but you can see if yours opens up like this, just double click on the header and it's going to maximize it instantly. A lot easier to read and play with in here. Very briefly, in case you're in here and you're curious what's going on and you're like, Nate, I don't see anything. Nothing's here. Don't forget the show assigned values. If I uncheck that, you'll see. And by the way, this is the beauty of GSelector. I can literally say for content on this day part for this category, do this thing, right? Across the board. And of course, I don't want to see all of this, right? If you're just working in this window, do you care about the station instrument during the overnight for the O category? Rich, do you care about the station instrument in the overnight O category? No, you don't care about that. You're not using it, right? And that's why we have show assigned values checked off at the top, right? That's what you want to do. You want to make sure that's either enabled or disabled. I've found in my experience, if I'm adding new rules to this window, operating in here for like either the first time or the first time in a couple months, what I do is I usually uncheck that, do my changes, use the filter up here, right? So I'm talking about, we'll say vocalist or artist separation, right? Oh, and don't forget here too, I can type a V to bring me down to that vocalist if I wanted to, right? Look at your day parts. Remember, mine are combined. And then look at the categories you care about. I only care about, classical, right? And then from here, I can go and say, there you go. There's my vocalist for my day parts, for my category, for my priority list. And then I have all of these rules. Don't forget, I'll do a min sep here. Days, minutes, all that stuff, right? Hours, minutes. I'll just say 5 hours, right? I hit tab, I hit enter. That red is going to be red because you probably don't have what that min sep is probably, I think it's, I got the math here. The math doesn't work, right? That's why it's flagged as red. It's telling you that the min sep is lower than the average turnover. And so just giving you a heads up, might have some issues in regards. That's why it's red, just so you know. And then from there, little things you might not have realized. You can go in the entire row, left to right. Make a note of down here. See that? See where my cursor is? F3, copy the above cell. Go down here, F3, copy the above cell. Over here, F8, copy the above row. F8, boom. And I wish I could have done here. I'll do this check here and check here so you can see, and I'll delete these values here just so I can go and show you. So again, F3 does the cell. Down arrow, F8, and you'll see that'll copy over everything as well here. Oh, there you go. There's the F8. I didn't do the other two. See that? Boom, boom. We're good to go. That's your friend. Personally, by the way, I find myself working in this window. I like using my keyboard. I like tabbing left and right, space bar to check off the boxes, put the values in yourself. Again, tab, enter the values, F3, F8. Very, very helpful stuff over there too. So if you're working in this window, that's great there. Cutoff days, very briefly here to kind of go through left to right. Min sep, of course, minimum separation, maximum separation, maximum skip, the old version 12. Careful of that one. That's not the old version 12 rule. Remember, GSelector has goals and rules. The idea here is that we want you to do stuff. So once you get into the kind of the world of max skip, you're not letting GSelector do the heavy lifting for you. So just be careful of that. Day part rotation. That is the number of times it can play in that day part, and then it has to play somewhere else. Day part rotation, hour rotation, days at a day part. Just be careful with these, right? Check your day parts. If I have 5 day parts, right, and I'm saying you have to schedule between 4 of them before you go to the next day part, and that last day part is, let's say, a Saturday night show that doesn't have all of the music you normally play, you're going to have some rotation issues, right? Be aware. So just keep in mind, let GSelector do the heavy lifting here, right? Don't do so much manual stuff. Give it a guide, and then again, isolate those transitions if you don't like them so much. Key mistake from a lot of users, hour rotation. They assume our rotation is 24/7. That is not the case. Go to your F1 help guide, rotation rules window. If you go down here and you scroll down, we'll see hour rotation. Where am I here? Help me out. Hour, right? Hour rotation. How many different hours in a given day part, right? A day part. Very simply put, I see a lot of users who misuse hour rotation, right? This is the rule, hour rotation rule. If I have an afternoon drive, 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, 4 hours, okay? If I give it a rotation rule of, let's say, 3, it's going to say, there's 1. So I got to play, if I played in 3, I got to go 4, 5, or 6. If I have 4, I got to go 5 or 6. If I have 5, I can only play in 6, right? And if you have any min-sep, any vocalist separation, you're really restricting GSelector from doing what it has to do for that day part. Less is more. Let GSelector do the scheduling for you. If you're going all crazy and revamping your rules, you watch this video and you're like, I learned so much. I'm going to do all these things. My biggest piece of advice to you is start low and then increase, right? Because if you just go crazy and say, oh, hour rotation. Well, overnights is 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That's 6 hours. So rotation should be an hour rotation of, 4. And I'm going to copy it to all my day parts. Whoa. Look at the example I just gave to you, right? That's not going to work. It's just not going to work. The math isn't there. Don't forget, math is still part of music rotations. I don't care what you say. It's all about math. If my average rotation is 7 hours, you're going to have some yesterday same hour issues. And even this yesterday same hour, it might save you here, it might save you there, but it's not going to save you in category turnover because you're telling GSelector to do very small things, right? I'm going to close that window for right now. I'm checking my thing here. Rich, Thomas, yes, Neil, we got all to you guys. All right, great. We're good there. So that's a great thing. Again, very briefly here, just kind of going on some basic rules. Difference between spread and the spread goals and the rules. Of course, remember, we're doing classic grading here. 65 and above, I'm allowed to play. Thus, I'm a breakable rule. Anything less than that gets a score of a 0. Cannot play. That's an unbreakable rule. If I'm a goal and I'm telling GSelector to do its best to spread you across, I can't tell you can't do that because by definition, the goal means I want you to do it. So goals cannot be unbreakable, right? That's the idea. I can always move them above or below. The weight, all of that, it's all an algorithm based on your library. I can't tell you that this is 50, that's a bad number. This is 70, that's a good number. It's all about your library and how it's weighted. The idea there is we can have numbered scores or just kind of up and down. It's really your choice. And how you want to do things, right? I can't tell you because it's really based on your library's algorithm, okay? A couple very brief things. Song linear, that's the basic kind of rule. That's left, right. Linear, left, right. Midnight to 11:59 p.m. That is song linear, vocalist linear, all that stuff. Song radial, that's going to be a circle around the spin, very simply put. Wednesday at noon. I'm going to look and score that. Tuesday at 11, Thursday at 1 o'clock. The little radial circle around that particular element, in this case, a song radial, right? And of course, you can do all these spreads. You can see artist, linear spread, vocalist, radial spread. I just threw a bunch of these in here just to kind of show you some examples. Sound code, linear spread for sound code, right? I don't really care about, radial for sound code because why? I don't care. Whereas vocalist radial, yeah, you might care. If you hear like Maroon 5 every day driving to your lunch, that's going to be a problem. Identify those transitions, right? So all great stuff there. Let's go to the setup for a second. I am not going to save my changes. I want to show you a couple really important things that I love. Again, I'm a big believer in how do you know how to do something if no one told you it existed, right? Couple things here I just want to show you under the advanced tab. Separate band priorities right here. And remember, you don't have to click that checkbox. You can actually click the actual text. See that? Little pro tip there for you. Separate band priorities. That is essentially if I have, very simply put, a pop record into a pop record into a pop record. Hey, I'm a top 40 station. That's fine. I'm okay with that, right? But if I do a pop record into a pop record into a pop record into a pop record, that's 4 in a row. Ooh, that's a little bit rough of a transition, right? If you include separate band priorities, if I jump back to my goals, you'll see I have the option now to say, okay, this one's fine, but this one, make it an unbreakable rule. See that? Super helpful. I love this. It's one of those things that I really encourage you to utilize it. Because worst case scenario, you just have them all breakable or unbreakable and you can see them. It's not the end of the world. No harm, no foul there, right? So that's a big one I want to point out. There's also the split the radials, separate linear in radial priorities. That's really up to you. If you're kind of like me and you have a lot of rules in your list, do you really want to have them split up? It's up to you. But you can see where, again, if I have the sound code linear spread, do I care if I'm a top 40 station and it's Wednesday at noon and at Tuesday at 11:58 I played a rock record? Do you care if a rock record on a top 40 station plays on Wednesday at noon and then Tuesday 11:58? You tell me. It's your music philosophy, right? I'm just giving you the tools to understand these types of things as well. So, again, those are two great ones. The split spreads, and as well as the split the segue bands, right? Those are two big ones. And so you can do there, and let's see here. We covered the spreads, the bands. Remember, linear spread, left to right, radial, circle around. We're not trying to confuse you here. They're just kind of basic terminology. And let's see here. Let's kind of do a 5-minute warning for questions. I can see that Despina checked in as well. Hey, Despina, how's it going? Let's do the last one here. Cross attribute timed segue bands or multi-attribute timed segue bands. I'll be honest with you. Even myself, I have kind of my hard-coded programming philosophy in there. And Bill and John and the team over at GSelector are doing great ways to enhance this GSelector experience, giving you the tools to really go and control those transitions. And one of the things that we introduced was multi-attribute timed segue bands. I believe this was in 4.8, if I'm not mistaken. It might be 4.7.1. I apologize if it's not. But as you can see, we're kind of in 4.9.5.0 territory. So obviously the traditional approach, goals, bands, segue. You can see here on the left-hand side, these are my actual segue bands. So that plus on the left is going to show me what segue band I want to add. The new down below here is going to show me what new segue band I'm adding. So very simply put, I want to have a new sound code. There's the plus there. I want to have a brand new element inside of here. I hit the new button. You can have up to 6 transitions in here, songs and links, right? Songs and links. That's big, by the way. So going back to Thomas's example from earlier, maybe you do a different way and say, I want all generic imaging, but don't play an 80s into a 90s. Don't play a 90s into an 80s. Don't play 80s into a 2000s. Don't play 2000s into like a 1990s, stuff like that, right? Tell what it can and can't do. The not coded, again, very important. As you can see here, I have all my sound codes. That's in here as well. So up to 6, don't segue song into song, followed by song, followed by song, followed by song, followed by song. The reason there's 6 positions here is because of that music sweep, right? The 5, 6 song music sweep, that's why those are here. If you think in music positions, you might want to use segue bands based on all of these types of positions. And again, make a note of not coded in any value. Not coded, any value. Super, super important there, okay? So this is just very simple, right? I'm just saying in this window here, goals, bands, segues, I want to do a new attribute. I'm going to define what those attributes are. And I'm just saying, don't play this into this, right? Make a note of the twofer section. The twofer section is here because, again, go back to the classic rock, two for Tuesday. If I have Bon Jovi and it's a 80s hair metal, right? And I have don't play 80s hair into 80s hair. If I check off this twofer box, it means that I still care about those attributes in twofer, which again, Bon Jovi won't play because you're telling it won't play. So usually if you don't want twofers, you can uncheck that box, your choice. Across stop set, that's essentially if you define a stop set. If I don't want to have a filler record into a filler record and there's a stop set in the middle, if that stop set is 6 minutes, do you care if it's the same sound code back to back after 6 minutes in that stop set? Again, I don't care. It's up to you. And I don't care. That's what a cross stop set is, right? So a lot of times users enable that setting because they want to maintain the transition. Or if you have like a speed break that's like, 3 minutes, it's almost like a song. You want to maintain that. And of course, hour restriction is the hours of which this segue ban will not go into effect, right? Hour restriction here is you're saying that, for Saturday nights, I don't care about guitar pop into guitar pop. It's out the window because I have a special guitar pop show every Saturday night, stuff like that, right? Now, that's all cool, fun, dandy. But you'll notice that we have a goals, bands, and, ooh, what is this? What's that time little attribute there? Time tab. Well, now what we can do is we can have multi-attribute timed segue bands. A lot of words, very, very simple. Same exact window. Go to double click here. The only difference is era, sound code. Two very different attributes. You'll notice that first line is what you have over here. So my first line's era, first line's mood. I can have plus over here. And again, I can have all my elements, and there's that sound code. Again, the transition here is this into that. The this is what you define here, and the that is what you define over here. I'm going to jump back to my era because I always use the example here, especially my RCS lives. Very simply put, because we're running out of time, if I have a certain, let's say, an attribute that there's a 50% chance a user might jump ship, okay? So if I have a classic hit station, fun, upbeat, all that good stuff, if I have, let's say, I know anything pre-1970, 1969 and before, there's a 50-50 shot they might jump ship. They might turn the dial, okay? All right, well, I know, there you go, identified that transition. But what if I have also a sound code with research scores or a research attribute that has filler core songs? And there's a 50-50 chance that if I have a non-core song or a non-core artist or a filler core song, there's a 50-50 chance the listener might change the station. Well, obviously, if I want to have a segue band, don't play era 1969 to 1969. But in the same realm, if I have era pre-1969 in sound code filler core songs, well, now we have, if there's a 50-50 shot, there's now like a 100% chance that they're going to change the station. I don't want this to happen at all. So we can say era pre-1969, sound code, filler core songs, right? And then we get into the time window. Well, let me ask you a question. If I put the time at 0, what does that mean? It means back to back, right? Which is the same exact thing as your segue bands, except we're using time. You're using the music position example from earlier. I want a 5-song music sweep. But in that 5-song music sweep, I don't want to have an era and a core song or a filler core song in a 5-song music sweep. Well, you tell me, what's your average length of your songs? Oh, I have no idea what that is. If only there was a way to go to goals, categories, and I don't know, see the average turnover and average spins of all these elements. Oh, yeah, look at that, right? There's definitely ways to do all this stuff. So jumping back to my bands, right? Let's just say the average one is, I don't know, we'll just say 3 minutes, 6 minutes, 9 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, right? If you don't want to have a era pre-1969 and a filler core song playing the same 15-minute music sweep, what should your time window be? 15 minutes or probably more like if you get 3 minutes, 30 seconds, do something like 17 or 18 or something like that. You know what I mean? But exactly. See, math, once again, playing a role in GSelector here too in music rotations. Matt, how's it going? Hello from Toledo. How's it going? Hey, welcome, Matt. That's pretty great. Welcome to the party. This is good. This is awesome. I love these RCS lives. You might be Matt. Maybe you'll be seeing Matt. People, Matt, all that good stuff. So multi-attribute timed segue bands. All that makes sense, right? So there's some really good stuff here. I'm going to do last round of questions here. So Rich, Thomas, Neil, any of you guys have questions, let me know. Even Matt, too, you got some questions. Feel free to throw out there. I'm definitely willing to answer them for you. So just again, going back to what we talked about, better rotations. How do we get better rotations? It starts with transitions. Understanding in the editor what is good, what is bad. I want you to do this. This is what I want you to do, right? Give yourself some tools. So you can see here, I highlighted things that red flags to me, right? If there's an attribute that you know is kind of a problem child in your database, we all have them, right? Goals, balance, attributes. Let's just say it's sound code or whatever it is. Look, I have, if indie pop is my problem, give it a bright red. Nate's core songs, that's what I want. Bright yellow. Just all you gotta do is right click and change the color. You don't like those colors? Fine. Tools, global settings. Go over here to appearances. Boom. Create your own color right here and then assign it for that user. And yes, those are user specific colors. So if you have an enterprise database, you're a PD and you have 2 other PDs in your markets, you can do your own colors and keep it individual if you wanted it to, right? But the key thing there is looking at transitions, identifying those transitions, what I like, what I don't like, using the failure details here to see if it's a certain song not scheduling. Well, go there and physically put it in. Title, artist, vocal. Put in the title, right? See why it's failing. If it says band, if there's something's going on, go to that particular element. Double click on it. That's going to bring you to the library. Once you double click on the library, go to the adjustments tab. Library, song, adjustments. Here's where you can see what that particular song is doing, right? Why is it scheduling? Why is it not scheduling? That's in here, right? And then at that point in time, we talked about those actual controlling your priority lists, right? Goals, priorities. Left-hand side here under definition, these are the many different types of priority lists. If you have a different day part, if you have something that's different, like a specialty Saturday night show, whatever it may be, isolate it. Isolate it in here. Put it over here, right? Make it different. And then you're going to, what your goals, priorities, definition, take that defined priority list and assign it to a particular category, right? Go over here and assign it to a category based on these rotations here, right? There's day part, song category group. Don't forget, twofers and themes are their own little isolated elements here, right? Definitely do that. That's in there too. And then, of course, we talked about under the definition, unbreakable, 0, can't play, breakable, 65 and above. Spread is do your best to spread them across, radial, circle, linear, left, and right. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Don't forget your segue bands. We talked about the setup, station, features, advanced. Breaking up those spreads, breaking up those segue bands, really your choice if you want to do either one of those. Stefano, last chance for questions. I know you just checked in, but last chance for questions. And then, at that point in time, we can then have some fun, right? Cross-attribute, multi-attribute timed segue bands. Don't play an era into a sound code. Don't play a mood into a tempo, low mood, sad mood, one tempo, stuff like that, right? You can do all of that. And I'll give you very last one because I know I teased it. I didn't get to it just yet. Airplay Starvation. John is going to, he's going to give me a text after this. I know he is. Because to me, this is a very quick and easy way. Airplay Starvation. The idea of Airplay Starvation is that we essentially take your category and however percentage the way through as we defined, you have to essentially play something. It's really more so for gold-based stations with higher songs in the category with a very high turnover. If you have like 15 songs and a 7-hour turnover, that's not going to be, Airplay Starvation's not the actual one for you. if we're talking about a gold-based station, if you normally get 3 spins per week and you're finding there's some songs that are 0, some songs that are like 5 or 6, right? Try this. It's a quick little fix. It's super simple. Goal Airplay Starvation. That's defined under Setup, Station, Features, Advanced, and you'll see maximum Airplay Starvation turnover percentage, 200%. You'll notice the minimum here is 150, right? And what that means is essentially it's the percentage or the number of times it goes through a particular category, right? If 100 times through is once, 150 is 1.5 times through. 175 is 1 3/4 of the way through. The maximum here is 200. That is 2 times through the category. So think about this. I have a turnover category of, we'll just say 16 hours, right? I have 100 songs in that category, turnover 16 hours. Again, the idea here, so I go to my analysis tab. I'm not going to save my settings. If I go to my analysis tab and I essentially go here and I'm not happy by my category, again, just analysis, current station, filter by category. And I had something like, you can see here, what's that, 3526, right? That's too big of a gap for me. I might put Airplay Starvation in, right? And what I'll do is, 150, 1.5 times through, 200, 2 times through. The idea there is that I'm shrinking that. So if I get to 1 time through, as I get closer to that 150 mark, that 200 mark, I'm essentially telling GSelector as a goal, you know what? I think it's time to look at that other song right now. Put that other song in there if you can. And so that's a great tool. I tell users that is biggest for spins. For a gap in spins, if you want to tighten that gap in there, Airplay Starvation is just great. I love it because, as you know, you're doing 8,000 other things as a PD. The last thing you want to do is tinker around for an entire Friday night to get your rotations right. If it's a goal-based station and it's just about there, you just need a tighter little tweak, check the Airplay Starvation. Start with, I like 175 personally. Again, if you're making these rule changes, start easy and then get aggressive, right? You'll know you got a problem when you do the analysis, look at your rotations, and then you see things not spinning. That's the first red flag. The second, if you go to your actual scheduler and you see unscheduled positions, that's your next red flag. Remember, this is not version 12. We don't want unscheduled positions. You want GSelector to do the heavy lifting for you, right? So if you see an unscheduled position somewhere in the scheduler, you're doing something wrong. Oh, I don't know what the problem is, Nate. I have a rotation, a category rotates every 5 hours, and I have a minimum separation of 7 hours. What's the problem? Math. Your min sep is too large. I can't play that song properly because it's supposed to play every 5 hours, and you're telling me I can't play for 7 hours. Math doesn't check out. But Nate, where do I know how to look at that information? Goals, categories, boom, there's your turnovers. Goals, balance, attributes, there's your turnovers. I can't express it enough. And of course, then too, you have your cross day part analysis where I can see everything across the board, exactly what's turning over. And don't forget that drop down here. That can isolate things, as you know. Not that I have nothing against overnights. It's just overnights. I can uncheck that box and you can see those numbers will update accordingly as well. Let's see here. Neil is good. Well, if Neil is good, we should just call the entire RCS live. Right, Neil? I'm glad you guys are good. As always, don't forget to take your backups. If you have any questions, let me know. We always do direct messages after this. So if you have any questions here, if you're watching this after the fact on our RCS Live archive, which of course is rcsworks.com/RCS-live, you can do that, as well as you can just direct message us and all of that good stuff as well. So yeah, Neil is good to go. I think it's time to call it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, we'll see you next Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Some exciting little news here. We're expanding our RCS Live. We're going to go to other mediums, including Twitch and YouTube. So if you, let's say, prefer not to be on Facebook, you prefer YouTube, or you prefer Twitch, we'll be on there too. Also taking questions as well, live in real time. So expect those new events coming down the pipeline, probably Friday or Monday or so as well. So Kai, thank you for checking in. Yes, as always, thank you. And I'll see you next Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time for RCS Live. Have a great one, everybody. Wear your masks. Be smart. Be safe. Have a good one. Bye-bye.